Hello and welcome back to the Royals Review Pod, the second podcast in 2 weeks. In 1 week, and you join us after Reading 3, Burton Albion 1. Jimmy, you were there last night. Talk us through the game and give us your standout performer, please.
Yeah, it was another great performance. The team pretty much back to their best, I'd say. There were some fantastic individual performances, notably from Garcia, Craig, Elliott. It was pretty much all Reading for the first half. Hadn't really had a sight on goal, however, until Campbell opened up his account with a nice finish from the edge of the box. Following the goal, it was pretty much all Reading still. They looked for a second, and that came just before half time from Campbell again, after some tidy play, winning back the ball off of one of the fullbacks. And yeah, we went 2-0 in at the break, which was fully deserved. The second half, though, was much quieter, but some pretty nice passages of play. Burton slowly grew back into it, but then Smith nodded in our third, his 7th in 7 against Burton, following a Lewis wing corner. Burton grabbed one back pretty much straight after that, which I actually missed. So I had to watch that back on the highlights. But yeah, all in all, really good game. A solid performance. I thought man of the match was easily Garcia. He was immense. The guy's 16. He's 16 years old. There's players in this league that are over twice his age, and I just thought he was fantastic. He was much better than what we've seen from Dorset in the last few weeks. He's great going forwards. He was pretty good defensively as well. He won a lot of headers, even though he's not the tallest. Linked up well with Kelvin. Was playing just really not like. I guess you only really notice it if you've played football before at a certain level. Not a super high level or anything. I'm not saying I've ever played at a super high level, but he was just giving Kelvin passes that you'd want to receive as a winger. They had a bit of pace on it, so you could take it inside. Just a lot easier to control. And yeah, I don't know. I noticed a few times with Dorset in the last few weeks that his passing isn't fantastic. So yeah, Garcia was crazy. Easily man of the match. He's some talent. He's going to have. If he plays like that every week, we're going to have a lot of clubs looking at him.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of reasons to be positive after that performance, and obviously 6 points in 4 days. And I'd say Garcia is probably the biggest positive. I think he looked really assured and comfortable, and obviously, given his age, that is very impressive. I've already seen a lot of people comparing him to Omar Richards, which is certainly not a bad place to be. I absolutely loved Omar Richards when he was at Reading. So yeah, long may it continue for him. But talking about continuing, Kem Campbell obviously opened his account, as you alluded to. And I think he was a player that, I don't know if he was desperate for it, but he really, really needed to get a goal involvement, I think, sooner rather than later, because I think already question marks were being asked about him. He obviously got 2 last night, which is great. And I actually think I saw one of your tweets, Jim, saying that a little bit of confidence in him and he might kick on, because there's a lot of pressure on him to be or to fill Femi Aziz's boots, which we know are quite big to fill after his performance last season. What did you make of Campbell's performance overall, and obviously 2 good goals?
Yeah, two nicely taken goals, but I still think he's got a lot of work to do. To be honest, it's kind of hard to have to back that up after he scored a brace and he got things sort of kicked off for the game. But yeah, before his goals, he hadn't really impacted the game too much. And then after his second goal and in the second half, he really didn't. At times, I thought, he's going to get subbed any second now. Candy was warming up on the side for pretty much 3/4 of the game, so I was expecting him to come on at any second. But no, he didn't come on right until the end. So yeah, Campbell stayed on a lot longer than I thought he would. But yeah, look, two goals must do him the world of good. Hopefully, he's feeling a lot more confident now and can just sort of kick on. But yeah, like you said, he's got big boots to fill with Aziz leaving. But yeah, there's still work to be done. I think the 2 goals were sort of made his performance look a lot better than it really was.
Yeah, and that is quite often the case, isn't it? That people see someone on the score sheet and assume that they've had a blind hour. Of which I'm not saying Kem Campbell didn't have a great game, but yeah, there's a lot more that needs to be done there. But I think he probably is capable. I think there is a player there, and we saw flashes of it yesterday, obviously. So yeah, hopefully his season is now kick-started and he can go out there and replicate that on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
The other player on the score sheet then is Sam Smith. We've spoken a lot about Sam Smith over the last few weeks, so I won't dwell on it too much. But great goal. And I've seen a lot of discourse on X of people suggesting that he's been quite poor this season, which I personally would like to rubbish. I don't think that at all. I think he's been great for Reading. He's been an outlet. I know a lot of people are looking at his heat maps and basing their opinion on that, which I think is vastly unfair, to be perfectly honest. I know he's been dropping a lot deeper, and I mean we saw that right from the off. Right, he was almost playing as centre mid against Birmingham on day one. But he scored 3 goals already this season. And I think the key thing for me is that he's winning offensive headers. So, Mbenge is obviously running a lot from the back, but when the backs aren't running, they're just lumping it forward. And Smith seems to be doing a great job of winning knockdowns, winning the aerial duels. So I think it's a slightly different role he's playing this season to last season. And I think we kind of just need to get over that. And as long as he's scoring the goals, I have no issue as to how or where he plays. His job, in my mind, is to get Reading on the to get on the score sheet for Reading and win us games, which he is doing absolutely fine for me at the moment. So I just wanted to get a little, not dig, but a little note in there to say that I think Sam Smith is performing perfectly fine at the moment, and I certainly wouldn't be jumping on his back. I don't know if you have anything to say on that other than to agree or disagree.
No, I fully agree. I can't see why anyone would be slating his performances unless they're literally just going off of stats and not actually watching the game. But if you watch any game that Sam Smith plays in, you can see the sheer amount of work that he does off the ball and on the ball, even if that isn't putting the ball in the back of the net. I mean, how many goals is he on this season so far? Is it 3? Was that his third
Three
goal?
in the league, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got 3 goals this season. I wouldn't say that's a bad stat to have at this point of the season at all. He's such a vital player in this team, and how he sort of brings the other players into play, with all of his knockdowns, and gets the best out of the other players as well. I just don't think you're going to get that from any of the other strikers to that level anyway, from any of the other strikers that we have. So yeah, I can't really see why anyone would be slating Sam Smith's performances. I still think he could get 20 goals a season. If he scores a hat trick tomorrow night, and all of a sudden he's up there with one of the, or if not the top goal scorer in the league. It could all change in one game if all you want to look at is goals. But yeah, I think he's a fantastic player, and although Wareham on the bench, I think he's going to be quality as well. I just don't see why anyone would want Smith not to be the starting striker.
Yeah, for sure. I'd maybe listen to someone suggesting that maybe Wareham should get a few more minutes. I'd have absolutely no problem with that. But I would, wholeheartedly disagree with anyone calling out Sam Smith at the moment. Not only because of all the work that he does that we've just discussed, but he is clinical. Like, he finishes chances. He scored 3 goals from 2.75 xG. If he gets a chance in the box, he's going to score it. And yeah, that's exactly what you want, right? You want your striker to be in the right place, right time, clinical, bang, goal.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I this may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I saw before yesterday's match that he has scored 50% of the shots that he's had on target. So 1 in 2 shots, say he gets 2 shots a game, one of them is going in. and he had a shot in the first half that was saved. And I was actually going to send you a text saying, next chance that Sam Smith gets is going in, and it was a header and a fantastic goal. So yeah, he's a quality player.
Well, I've got it here actually. He's had 8 shots on target now, and he scored 3 goals. So yeah, you're not far off. And I actually don't know how many he had yesterday. So maybe he's skewed that for you. But yeah, mate, I completely agree. I think he's fantastic. So I won't dwell on that any longer. Let's jump straight to Rotherham then, because we've got a lot to cover off on today's pod. They are currently sit 17th, 3 points behind the Royals, which, given they dropped down from the Championship last season, is a little bit of a surprise. They got their man Steve Evans back from Stevenage, and I think they will probably be pretty unhappy with how things are going at the moment. They got a win last night, due to a very lucky goal, I mean, it's lucky, isn't it? I was going to try and find a nicer way of putting it, but they got very lucky very late on last night. What do you make of Reading's chances against Rotherham? Are you feeling confident as we head on the road?
I am, yeah. I am feeling confident. Like you said, I think Rotherham probably would have hoped to have started the season a lot better than they have. Be a lot higher up the table than they are. The signings and the changes that they made following their relegation from the Championship. But yeah, I think we're just sort of, like I said at the start of the show, we're sort of back to our best, especially our passing. I just think we're playing a lot better as a team as we were before the international break. So yeah, I'm as confident as ever that we could continue the winning form.
Yeah, I agree. Their home form has not been great in the league this season. They've one win against Huddersfield, and the goal scoring hadn't started until Huddersfield were down to 10. They're beaten by Birmingham at home last time out. And the key result for me here, purely down to recency, is the Burton Albion result. They drew 2-2 with Burton Albion about a month, just under a month ago, in the middle of September. I personally thought Burton Albion were pretty poor last night, coming to our place. So I think if we can take anything from that result there, I think you have to look at this game and suggest we have a really strong chance of coming back with the points. I mentioned Steve Evans. I have no worries admitting this. He is my least favourite manager in the whole league. I really, really despise the bloke. So I'd absolutely love to go up there, snatch the 3 points, and run and get as far away from him as possible. The last thing I want to be seeing is him running on the pitch at full time, giving it the way. So I'm really, really hoping that Sellers and the boys can go and get a result.
Yeah, fully agree.
Nothing more to say, I don't think. We'll move on to our September review, but first, I guess actually, I'll get your prediction on Rotherham away.
I'm gonna go for another 2-0. I feel like that prediction against Burton paid off, although it was incorrect. But yeah, I think 2-0. It looks like we've got a few players that can pop up and score goals. So yeah, 2-0, and I'm hoping Smith can continue notching towards 20. But yeah.
Yeah, I initially wanted to go 1-0, but Reading do struggle to keep clean sheets. So I might go for 2-1 again, although that seems to be my most popular outcome at the moment. Because I do think Reading win. I think we can cause them loads of problems, but I do see Rotherham getting on the score sheet with some of the firepower up front that they have. I wanted to say 1-0 because I remember last season, Tuesday night in the soaking rain, a 1-0 win over Steve Evans' Stevenage, which was absolutely lovely. And I could see that happening again. But 1-goal win for Reading, I think, and I'll nail my flag to 2-1. Right, September review. This almost passed me by until you mentioned it. What did you make of September on the whole? Obviously, only 3 games in September due to the international break.
Yep.
Started off with a loss to Leyton Orient and then 2 wins at home. Give me your highlight and your player of the month.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in general, it could have been better, but I think everyone will probably take it. 3 points from 9. But I think it's nice that we seem to have got the momentum back that we had before the international break. You would have thought probably should have got something against Leyton Orient, but I guess what will be will be. The highlights, well, I mean, I guess it's got to be coming from behind to beat Huddersfield after 2 losses on the bounce. Really great response against one of the better teams in the league, I'd say. And then player of the month. I think this is a relatively easy one as well. I imagine, I may be completely wrong, but I imagine you will have the same player, Ben Elliott. I think he has been fantastic. He's been really good. He obviously popped up with 2 goals, but it's just his overall play compared to last season in midfield is just crazy. I think we just look so balanced with him, Wing, and Elliott. Him, Wing, and Nibs. Or even when Charlie Savage comes on or Charlie Savage starts, there's just a lot more balance in that midfield, and you don't look at it and think that's ever an issue. But yeah, Elliott, he was fantastic last night, and he's been great throughout September.
Yeah, I agree. You've actually made this quite difficult for me because not only have I realised I said the complete wrong results for September because it was 2 losses and a win, but I also had Ben Elliott as my player of the month. So this section is not going to be as long as I thought it might be. With only the win against Huddersfield, the only win in the month. So that was obviously the highlight. The one stat that I wanted to pick out about Ben Elliott, actually, which I think is actually a really underrated one, is he is in the top 5 in the league for being fouled. He's been fouled 18 times already this season, which just goes to show how good he is on the ball, breaking away. I think that's just obviously it's not necessarily a reflection of him actively looking to be fouled, but it's him skipping away from people, winning us fouls and attacking positions. And we know, obviously hasn't happened yet, but we know we have the likes of Lewis Wing, and even a few more I'd fancy that could can stick a free kick on the edge of the box in the back of the net. So that could be something to watch going forward. I have nothing
on that. It's an interesting point actually, because yesterday there were a few occasions where he had the ball and there were like there's a risk to take. He could take on and try and get through 2 or 3 players that certain footballers, especially at this level, just wouldn't even consider. And the amount of times that I saw Elliott take on 2 or 3 players or jump through these like tiny little gaps that are there is crazy. And the amount of fouls that he sort of drew from that, it kind of backs up your point really well. There's only a few players off the top of my head that I can think who like actively look to do that, and I'm not saying he's anywhere near that level, but Hazard was always one of them at Chelsea as well. You just run into a group of players and then he'd just pop out the other side with the ball. And I've seen Elliott do that a few times recently.
Yeah, I love it. I haven't really got anything other to say other than he's just had a great month, and much like all of the other players that are in good form for Reading, long may it continue, and I think he's got a big future ahead of him. So hopefully he reaches some of that potential at Reading. You won't believe it, Jim, but we've actually got 3 questions again. We seem to have picked up a bit of momentum. There are a couple of guys who have been asking questions for us, which we really appreciate. So thank you very much for doing that. We'll start off with it. This is quite a fortune teller question, but I saw you repost one of your tweets from last season with some good foresight. So maybe you'll have it again. Who will be your player of the season? Or in fact, not your player of the season. Who will be the player of the season for Reading once this campaign is over?
That's a really good question. I think going off of who I said was going to have a really big season this season, and the way that they've performed up until now, is Ben Elliott. I think he, like I just said a few minutes ago, he's been fantastic. And if he continues playing like that, then I think he'll easily be player of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I I would agree with you, but I'm going to disagree just for the sake of this lasting more than 30 seconds. Currently, the highest rated Reading player is Kelvin, but we all know that he started the season really strong with goals in the first couple of games. Um, and I think there's no way that if this season goes okay for Reading and we don't see a massive drop off or anything like horrible, I think there's no way that Lewis Wing, Tyler Binden, Harvey Nibbs, and Sam Smith aren't all considered to have had a very good season purely because they're all very good players. So I'll leave Ben Elliott for your prediction, and I'm gonna go for Tyler Binden. He hasn't necessarily done anything that is crazy at the moment. I just think he's a very good centre back. Again, considering his age, he wins loads of aerial duels. He looks quite calm on the ball. He obviously had a great season last season, and I know a lot of people were shouting for him to win Player of the Season last year. So I think maybe he goes one better this season. But as I say, hasn't done anything to get himself towards the top in terms of ratings or rankings amongst Reading players yet this season. But there are so many games yet to play. I can see him playing pretty much every minute. Touch wood that he doesn't get injured. And he's got an important part to play for Reading if we are going to have a big season, which we're going to come on to. But I think the potential is there for that to happen. So yeah, I'll take a punt on Tyler Binden.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we mentioned it on the last pod as one of the reasons to come down and watch the team, but there are just so many like high potential young players who are all going to be having massive seasons this season, and individually there aren't many players that have started poorly, or shall I say, individually, the majority of players have started very, very well. So yeah, it's definitely too early to call who could be player of the season. I'm going to stick with Ben Elliott, but yeah, it could be anyone, even Garcia. If Garcia starts a lot more games and he played as well as he did yesterday, then like, he could easily be player of the season.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that's like I think worth mentioning in this discussion that not that goals automatically decide who wins this, but I guess if one player goes berserk and scores like 25 goals, they're going to
Yeah,
be well in with a chance of winning this. But Reading have 5 players that have scored 2 or more goals. So Smith is obviously the leading scorer, but with 3. And then we've got 4 players that have scored twice. So Reading are currently looking like a team that are going to share the goals throughout the season. So that kind of backs up both of our shouts of Elliott and Binden that it might not be a striker that is going to win this. That said, Ben Elliott is obviously a second top goal scorer with 2 goals. So maybe it will. Maybe he fires himself all the way to glory, but we shall see. Um, that was quite a happy question. I don't know if this has to be a negative question, but uh, there is a possibility for it to be. What do you think happens, Jim, if we haven't gone through a takeover by January? And I think this is posed as a question as more of a: do you think we lose any players? Do you think we lose Sellers? Yeah, more personnel based than points deductions and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. It's tough really because I guess the longer this whole transfer saga sort of drags on, um, the worse the situation gets on the pitch. Sellers will be considering his options, other players will be considering their options, and then you do get that fear like we had last January, where we did unfortunately lose a couple of key players, or sorry, shall I say, a key player in Nelson Abbey. Not that it turned out as sort of much of a loss because Mbenge and Binden have been fantastic since then, if not better than what we had previously. But yeah, the squad is just so thin right now. We really can't afford to lose any more players. So yeah, I mean, all I can hope for is that the takeover is completed by January. Otherwise, yeah, I can see there being issues. I can see us potentially cashing in on some of these young players that have been performing well and will be attracting a lot of interest from Championship clubs, maybe even Premier League clubs that might be looking like they could get relegated from the Prem come January. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying be worried, definitely not saying be worried, but I think we can probably assume that it will be relatively similar to what it was like last January, if nothing's sorted by then.
Yeah, I agree. I think the key thing for me is that there will be loads of speculation. A lot of what will happen in January will be as a result of other teams rather than of Reading, if that makes sense. Like there is bound to be teams in the Championship who will be looking for the type of players that we absolutely have. I'm 100% convinced that we have players in our squad that are too good for this league and would easily fit into a lot of Championship teams, if not all Championship teams. The likes of Nibs, Wing, like no point in going through them because there is a long list. Um, and unfortunately, the position we're in, there may come a time where those offers come in and we are kind of forced to get rid of those players. I really hope that isn't the case. Um, but look, it's something that we've been really bad at over the years. It's letting players run out their contracts and go for free. Even the elite stuff, which is obviously saving us at the moment. But I do feel like we lost out there. We've lost out on numerous occasions that I can't even really think of right now. So yeah, some of the young talent that you mentioned, it may get to a point where we have to get rid of them just purely so that they don't run out their contracts, or more that the offer could be too good to say no to, both for the player and for the club. So yeah, I don't really want to think about it because I'd love to think that all of the players that we have right now are really passionate about Reading, and to be honest, they continue to prove that. So I have no reason to believe that they're not. I'm also slightly concerned about Sellers, but we spent a long time talking about that last week, so I won't get back into that. But I mean,
Yeah,
my go on,
sorry,
mate,
yeah,
you go for it.
just to add to that, I think like the value of the players to the club and the team is so much more than what their actual like financial value is. Like for example, say we sell one of our better players for a million pounds. If that's gonna be if that million is then going to be spent on the day-to-day runnings of the club, that's not going to last long. But we could have then lost Sam Smith, for example, or whatever. So yeah, like if it's going to have a much bigger impact on the team than it would like on the actual club, if that makes sense. So yeah, fingers crossed that the mindset is still similar to what it was last January, and the club are refusing to sell players because yeah, it's more than likely going to severely alter the final position in the table. So yeah, fingers crossed they don't sell anyone.
Yeah, I agree. My real answer to this is that we're going to be taken over by January, so we don't need to worry about anything we just said because it's all going to be happy come the start of 2025. Please, please. And we're going to end on a really negative note. Well, I'm going to make it not negative, but I don't know what you're going to say here. Do you think at this moment in time, or looking ahead, that Reading FC will be fighting relegation if we don't go through a takeover this season?
Right now, no way. I think we're looking at playoffs, but if all the tax issues come back and we start getting points deductions, then yeah, like it's literally it will just be like a carbon copy of last season. Really, like avoiding relegation will be the main priority. To be fair, I'm still sure it is the main priority to avoid relegation. I don't think Sellers will be looking to get promoted in the current situation. I'm just saying I think the team is good enough to reach the playoffs. They've already shown that they can beat a lot of what we consider as the better sides in the league. So yeah, I think it just all depends on how things sort of pan out behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm staying positive. I still reckon we could push for playoffs. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. I can't remember the account that posted it, but it was like a prediction, and it had it was like a graph, and it sort of showed the projection for relegation and for promotion and for reaching the playoffs, and how Reading are sort of bouncing between all of those. But after last night's win, we're on track for playoffs. So if we keep playing like that, then it's good news.
Yep, I completely agree with you. I am convinced that Reading are one of the better teams in this league. I think we're definitely in the top six in this league with our first team squad. But there are a couple of things. One that you alluded to is um, the powers that be, whether they decide to punish us, um, or more whether our owners decide to uh, not pay the bills, etc., and end us up in trouble. Another big thing is if we obviously can't purchase anyone or get anyone in. If we are unlucky to have injuries to our key players, that could massively damage our chances. But that aside, which I think at this point, right, we have to kind of look past and not focus on the negative side. Um, I agree. I think at this rate we will be in the playoffs, and I'll be very 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 happy with that. If the worst is to happen, and I think at the start of the season too, the big objective would have been let's avoid relegation. But I think we're all aware as fans, and the players are aware, and Sellers is definitely aware that Reading are a very very strong side, and they can compete in this league right up to the top. We saw against Birmingham away day one. Reading were equally as good, arguably better. Although Birmingham may have improved since, I think that really showed me that this squad has the ability to fight with the very best in this league. So I agree. I think we will be nowhere near relegation this season now, and I think we can push for playoffs. So reasons to be positive for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right, half an hour this time. That's double the length of some of our podcasts, Jim. It has been an absolute
Win
pleasure,
one.
mate. Thank you very much for joining
As
me.
always, as always.
Anyone who's
Cool.
watching, thanks a lot. Please like, follow, subscribe, send us in questions, pick up on any of the mistakes we made, ridicule us online. We'll have loads more of these as the fixtures come thick and fast. We'll see you at the New York Stadium. Come on, you are.